A very pleasant good afternoon and welcome one and all to the afternoon rush. My name is Randolph Critchlow. We want to say thank you as usual to those persons who are joining us internationally in the region and right here in Guyana. It is Tuesday, the 20th of April 2021, and we're happy to have you on our program as usual. It is the afternoon rush. We are on a little late. We're starting at 6 because we're still having some difficulties. You might hear some noise in the background. Again, as we said, we're relocating, we're renovating our studios. So we're in a temporary location. But nevertheless, we'll continue. It is a little after 6 here in Georgetown, Guyana. It's a lovely day in Guyana, Tuesday, the 20th of April 2021. 413 days since the March 2nd regional and general elections, and we still do not have credible results from those elections. Is 414 days, 414 261 days since this fraudulent administration would have been installed, and they continue to run roughshod over this country. And we are going to be discussing all of those issues on today's show. But as usual, as we like to start here on the afternoon rush, we want you to tell us where you're viewing this program from. And before I start by giving those shout outs to those persons, let me say thank you very much for those many persons who would have wished me happy birthday today. I thank you very much for that. I appreciate all of your greetings. And we're going to be going into unpacking some issues today. But again, let me start by saying thank you to all of those persons who wished me happy birthday today. And let's get into it, people. Where are you joining us from? Where are you joining us from? Let us know in the comments. As I share a few more locations, let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. We like to know where you're viewing the program from. It's part of our tradition here on The Rush to shout out those persons who are joining us from all over the world. East New York in the house. Thank you very much for being a part of what we're doing here. Toronto is in the house. Michigan is in the house. Which part of Michigan you're joining us from? Detroit. Thank you very much. Queens in the house. Thank you very much for joining us as usual. Our friends over there in New York City, Queens in the house. Canada, St. Kitts. All of you, welcome. Remember, as we say, the price of admission is simply to share the live stream, right? Let your friends and family know that we're about to unpack some credible and valid information. As I'm sharing right now, I'm going to be starting in a few. We're going to be discussing a number of issues. As you see, our headline says the court declares appointment of parliamentary secretaries by the PPP unlawful. These are the two parliamentary secretaries, and we're going to be joined by the Chief Whip, Mr. Christopher Jones, in just a few, and he'll be helping us to unpack some of those same issues that came out of that case that a ruling was handed down today. We're going to be unpacking that. Listen, we've seen the actions of the PPP from day one, the unlawful actions, the unconstitutional actions. So this here, again, is no surprise. And we're happy that the Chief Justice would have come down on the side of the law, on the side of the Constitution. And we're going to be talking about the case. Earlier today, Mr. Sherry Duncan had a special report, and he was joined by the senior counsel, Royce Ford, who was the lead attorney for this particular case. And they sort of gave you a rundown of what happened in the case. But I'm going to be joined by Mr. Christopher Jones, whose name this case was filed in, as he was the person, the chief whip, that called for the removal of these persons from Parliament on the basis that they were there unconstitutionally. So we're going to get into that. We are going to get into that in just a few minutes. A number of other issues in the news. Right. Thank you very much again. Let's continue. Trinidad is in the house. Thank you very much. Love to have you always, of course. Right. Let's get into it as usual. We think we've as my colleague Sherry Duncan likes to say, we hit that magic number. So we are going to be unpacking. First, folks, before we get into Folks, my apologies, of course. We had a little problem with our connection there, but we want to thank you very much for staying tuned to the afternoon rush. Sorry about that. We have a bit of issues, but as I said, we are going to be getting into some of the stories this afternoon, folks. We want to start with COVID. COVID-19 is still running rampant, and today we saw, of course, another COVID-related death. And we start by advising you about these numbers, which are bad numbers, we like to call them. um, you know we like to call them bad numbers, but we of course view this with, and folks, 273 persons 273 persons have now succumbed to COVID-19 in Guyana. Very, very sad statistics. Very, very sad. And we hope that everybody is doing what they need to do to sort this out. Hope that you're hearing us and seeing us clearly. Thank you very much, of course. COVID-19. Let us move on because there are a number of other issues we want to talk about this afternoon. Let's get straight into what we deem as the main story today. The main story. Folks, we've seen the PPP government, we've seen this illegal installed administration continue to flaunt the Constitution, continue to do what is unconstitutional. And with me today to talk about what happened in court is none other than the Chief Whip, Mr. Christopher Jones. Chris, welcome to the show this afternoon.
All right, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Randy. Good afternoon to your viewers.
Right. Thank you very much, of course. Chris, we're hoping that you can return to the lunch break show soon because, persons have been asking what is happening with Christopher Jones and the lunch break show. So I hope you have something positive to tell us this afternoon.
but definitely, so in fact, Monday, just yesterday, the lunch break should have returned. But due to timing and space at the same time. But I'm pretty certain by tomorrow will be the first, the return of the lunch break program for sure.
Right. So thank you very much for that. And of course, persons are interested in what is happening or what happened today in court. We know that as a Chief Whip, you would have been at the forefront of the call for the removal of Ms. Brung and Mr. Ramkasoon from Parliament as parliamentary secretary, on the fact that, I'm not going to get into all the legal jargons, but they're not supposed to be in Parliament. What can you tell us about what played out today?
All right. So, Bill, essentially, I want to take yourself and your viewers back in 2020 when they were first appointed. From the inception, the APNU AFC in the National Assembly, we raised objections to their appointment on that basis. I have to give credit where it's due. To my colleague, Member of Parliament, Ganesh Maipal, who was actually very instrumental in the research to confirm the information. And having done so, Ganesh put together his findings. And of course, the senior counsel, Mr. Roysdale Ford, made the submission to the court, seeking the removal or seeking to have a declaration made, which indicates that both Ms. Brung and the other youngster, their appointment to the National Assembly is illegal. And of course, today, the acting Chief Justice, Madam Roxanne George Wiltshire, did indeed rule that their appointment as members of Parliament is illegal. I'll take your viewers as far back as 2015, when the APNU AFC formed the government. The then Attorney General then the former Attorney General Anil Nandlal had actually brought a court proceedings against the APNU AFC government, citing that Mr. Winston Felix and Mr. Keith Scott could not have been appointed technocrat MPs, and by virtue of the fact that their names are reflected on a political party's list of candidates. And as such, they both had to have been removed. It is the exact same thing that played out here as it relates to the two parliamentary secretaries of the People's Progressive Party Civic. Both of them, their names appear on the People's Progressive Party Civic national top-up list of candidates. And by virtue of that, they could not have been appointed parliamentary secretaries. We raised this argument with them in the parliament, but the People's Progressive Party Civic, like they are, fraud is fraud, and that is something they are accustomed to and they know. So they foist on the National Assembly the two MPs, and now the court has so ruled that their appointment as MPs is illegal. I also want to draw to yourself and your viewers' attention, or rather, an iteration that these two MPs that the court has ruled today that their appointment is illegal. This now makes three. I repeat, this now makes three PPP members of parliament who the court has ruled that their appointment at the time is illegal. And apart from these two, the third person happens to be the now squatting in the office Minister of Tourism, Onish Waldron. So thus far, within the past 8 months, or within the 8 months, the APNU AFC brought legal proceedings against the appointment of members of parliament of the People's Progressive Party Civic, of which the court ruled in all three cases that the appointment of those MPs are illegal. Ms. Brown, Pandit, and of course Onish Waldron. All three have been ruled by the courts of Ghana that their appointment was illegal. And again, it speaks to the true to form of the People's Progressive Party Civic and who they are. That essentially anything that is illegal, you could attach that to them. But what I want to do, Randy, is essentially take yourself and your viewers all the way into next week, particularly on Monday the 26th. Now, as my colleague Amanda Walton put up on her Facebook page today, that indeed today is a good day for justice, both locally and abroad. And abroad, reference to the George Floyd's case, in which the former policeman has been found guilty on all three charges. A good day for justice in Guyana as it relates to the ruling by the Madam Roxanne George, as it relates to the two members of parliament. And of course, it is expected that on Monday, the 26th of April, in terms of the AFC's petition, that the Madam Chief Justice will rule that the Order 60, which was used to bring about the recount, is illegal. And as such, the declarations that was made as a result of that Order 60 will also be illegal. And therefore, as we said, since from the outset that the People's Progressive Party Civic are illegal, that they are squatting in office, on Monday, April the 26th, the Chief Justice will so rule that Order 60 is null and void, and therefore the declarations that were made then to bring about an administration will also be null and void.
Chris, it's going to be interesting as we see these things play out in court. We know that today, the ruling by the Chief Justice, of course, the Attorney General is appealing. He's going to appeal that, and it speaks to what is the next step, because these persons will still be sitting in Parliament. So I'm assuming that they will be allowed to continue to sit there until this reaches its finality, because I know there's an appeal on the side of the Attorney General.
Not necessary. In fact, I can say to you, Randy, and your viewers now, that the leader of the opposition, Mr. Joseph Harmon, has already prepared a letter which will be dispatched to the Speaker of the National Assembly by latest, I think, tomorrow, indicating to him or drawing to his attention the ruling that has been made today by the Acting Chief Justice Roxanne George, which spells out very pellucid that the two members of Parliament of the People's Progressive Party Civic, their appointment is illegal. And as such, he will have to act based on that ruling. Now, unless the Anil Nandalal is able to get the appeal court or some other court to file or grant a stay, if you would want to call it, if he gets a court to grant a stay, then that is the only way that those two MPs can remain in office. But as it stands now, currently, those two members of parliament are illegal. And as I said before, the leader of the opposition, Mr. Joseph Harmon, has already prepared a letter that will be dispatched to the Speaker and the Clerk of the National Assembly as early as tomorrow, drawing to his attention the ruling by the court, and as such, with immediate effect, those two individuals no longer can sit in the Parliament of Guyana.
For those persons who are now joining us, we are discussing the court ruling today by the High Court that the two persons who were sitting in the National Assembly as parliamentary secretaries, Ms. Sarah Brown and Ms. Vikash Ramkisoon, part of the ruling said that they cannot be. So let me just read for what the Chief Justice would have said. I have concluded that the third and fourth respondents are not lawful members of the National Assembly since their membership is by virtue of their appointment as parliamentary secretaries. I so declare. Chief Justice Roxanne George will just said in adding, she added that based on this declaration, the appointment of Sarah Brown and Vikash Ramkisoon is also unlawful. And this, of course, happened today. Christopher Jones joining us is the chief whip and would have been a part of this along with Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford and, of course, Ganesh Maipal, MP Ganesh Maipal, who brought this to the attention of the courts. And we're happy to have this conclusion today. But Chris, you said an interesting thing. You said this speaks to the nature of the PPP. This speaks to their hubris and their bold-facedness, their bare-facedness to, try and push this on people. When it was the same PPP who said that the AP and UFC couldn't have these technocrat ministers, and they took it to the court and all of that too. Now they're trying to force these two persons into parliament. Very, very interesting.
That's right.
Right.
But Randy, as I said before, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. No, I'm saying that indeed, as we mentioned before, that today is indeed a good day for justice, both here in Guyana and, of course, a broad reference to the case there with George Floyd. But, of course, I want to remind all and sundry here in Guyana that activism and proactiveness is very important. In the case of George Floyd, you had cities across the United States which continue their protest exercise, calling for justice and so forth. As it relates to this petition that is going to be ruled upon on Monday the 26th, is that Guyanese of all walks of life have to take their necessary action now. Whether if you want to start it on your social media platform or you want to take it out in the street, is that you have a right to demonstrate your legitimate discontent. And I am saying to all and sundry that, listen, in the lead up to Monday the 26th of April, when you will have the petition being ruled upon, is that Guyanese have to take to the streets and let their voices and their presence be felt, so that you could remind all and sundry, particularly those in the region and internationally, that Guyana did not vote, or Guyanese did not vote for the People's Progressive Party Civic. You vote for a government to continue the leadership that this country saw 2015, 2020. And of course, the administration, that is the previous administration, the Donald Trump administration, which foisted the People's Progressive Party Civic on the people of Guyana. And the people of Guyana have the opportunity now to stand up, stand firm, stand resolutely, that on Monday the 26th, when this petition is ruled upon, that it rules that the Order 60, which was set out by the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, which spelled out several menus that it would have been dealing with, but dispelled many of those and just focus on the recount numbers. And Order 60, as the legal advisor to the Guyana Elections Commission, Miss Excellence Dazel, when she was approached by the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission about a recount exercise, she indicated to the chairman then that an exercise of such is illegal. It is not found in the Constitution. And what has to happen is that you have to have the 10 regional declarations by the REOs. Those have to be made. And you have to use those as the basis to declare a winner of the elections. when the chairman of the Ghana Elections Commission was not satisfied with that legal advice that was given to her by Miss Excellence Dazzle, the legal advisor to the Ghana Elections Commission, they sought further clarity from the Chief Parliamentary Counsel. And in his submission to the chairman of the Ghana Elections Commission, he too pointed out to her that Order 60 or an Order 60 is illegal. It is not founded in law. It is not found in the Constitution of Guyana. And to proceed in that direction will be affront to the Constitution. And he too, like Excellence Dazzle, reiterated the point that Excellence Dazzle made, that what has to happen in an election, the 10 REOs have to put forward their declaration. The 10 regional declarations have to be made by the REOs, by the RO, and you use that as the basis to declare a winner of those elections. That was pellucid. And then, of course, both Excellence Dazzle and Chief Parliamentary Counsel mentioned or stated to the chairman of the Ghana Elections Commission that any aggrieved party from the elections results have to take that up via an election petition in the courts. So all of this legal advice was provided to the Ghana Elections Commission before they started this recount exercise, but yet still they went ahead and do it. This argument went as far as the appeal court in Guyana. It went to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Both, I remind you, both of which rule that Order 60 is illegal. So here now you have what is considered a puny court, that the puny court is going to be making a ruling on Order 60 on Monday, the 26th of April. Now, if you have these two other courts that are above, the appeal court and the Caribbean Court of Justice, both ruled already that Order 60 is illegal, one would expect that the ruling on Monday the 26th can't go no other direction other than Order 60 is illegal. And therefore, when that ruling is made, it's then mean, as we said before, as you said on the program, as Sherrod and Mark Ben, you name them, Rick Ford and all of that, as we have been saying ad nauseum, that the People's Progressive Party Civic in office are illegal. They are illegal. They are squatting. We stated that they have been installed. Even the U.S. State Department report echoed those sentiments that they have been installed. And as my colleague Amanza Walton Desir said some time ago, that in foreign affairs, in diplomatic language, you make no mistake. Your language you use is very deliberate. It's very deliberate. And we don't believe it was by accident that the U.S. State Department report came out and echoed the sentiments expressed by the coalition that the People's Progressive Party Civic has been installed. But I said all of that, Randy, to say this, that Monday the 26th is where the court has to rule that Order 60 is illegal. And like what we saw in the United States, in all of those cities, that the average American took to the streets because they were calling for justice. They had the right to demonstrate their legitimate discontent with the justice system there in the United States. And here in Ghana, you can't be a passerby or a person who is sitting and just reading on social media. Oh, let me see what the news said. Let me read and see what Gordon Mosley said. Let me hear what Travis Chase said. You have to be the activist. You know this People's Progressive Party Civic is illegal and they are squatting in office. And you know that Order 60, as adumbrated by Excellence Dazzle, the legal advisor to GCOM, and the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, that to go in the direction of Order 60 will be to go in contravention of the Constitution of Ghana. So you know that. You know that. And that's what
Chris, just to add to what you were saying there about these courts, even the CCJ, threw cold water on the Order 60, scoffed at it, saying that, look, how could this, thing create a new elections regime? Essentially, basically, how is it? And but a lot of things would have been going on during that time, Chris. And you and I know that
Yeah.
they seemed what it seemed to be was some means to an end. They needed to get to an end, right?
Yeah.
Which would have seen the PVP government installed, right?
Yeah.
So if you had to do acrobatics and gymnastics to get around what actually is stated in law and what is right, they did that, right? So hopefully now that we are moving forward on different footing, a different geopolitical situation playing out, we shall see that these pressures that were brought to bear on the court system will not be there, and the court can rule and come down on the side of what is constitutional and what is the law. But as you
Yeah.
say this, Chris, I'm reminded that Petition 99 is also still alive.
That's
And
right.
this is the one that the PvP are mortally afraid of. They are mortally afraid of that those evidence coming out, those pieces of evidence coming out in a court of law, right?
Hmm.
All of the things you and I, along with Cher, we spent months going through all of the anomalies, all of the discrepancies, and all the wrong things that we saw coming out of those of the recount. And so, if that comes out in a court of law, it is extremely embarrassing that you, as a government, sitting in the seat of power, based on all of these fraudulent things, and this
Yeah.
is what they are afraid of. So this is why we're seeing these false flags initiative, like I call them, the
Hmm.
commission of inquiry into elections, which would have no bearing.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about a commission of inquiry on the elections when you have two petitions in the court? If you are so interested in inquiring into the elections, then do not try to stymie the petitions. Allow the petitions to go ahead. Don't argue
Absolutely.
them. Don't even put up a defense. Just say,
Exactly.
okay, let the court examine and determine. If you are
That's
so
right.
interested, don't come tell people about commission, as the leader of the opposition called it, a puppy show. But yes,
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. And Randy, speaking of both order, petition 88 and petition 99, we often say that God works in mysterious ways. What wonders he performed. Now, our senior counsel, Mr. Roysdale Ford, when submitting both petition, he was arguing, or he was pleading with the Madam Chief Justice at the time, that he wanted these two petitions to be heard separately, so that you will be able to go into the meat of each petition, examine it, and place your arguments before it. He was adamant. He wanted to ensure that both petitions were heard separately. But the direction that we were going in at that time indicated that both petitions would have been heard jointly. As God would have it, it was thrown out. And of course, we argue against that. It is now back. So now you have petition 88 that is going to be dealt with and ruled upon on Monday, and petition 99 will come sometime thereafter. So, as I said, God works in mysterious ways, because exactly what Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford set out to achieve, he will now have that you will have both petitions being heard separately and apart.
You know, we're looking forward to the 26th, to hearing what is happening. We're also looking forward to the appeal to that petition 99, because here's the reality. Like I tell persons, yes, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon, but
Mhm.
the reality is that these things will be heard. The court
Correct.
really does not have a choice. And that's what people need to understand. You can try all you want to slow down the process, but this petition, with both petitions, will be heard. This technicality that the petition 8899 was thrown out on is frivolous.
Correct.
And the Court of Appeal will recognize that. And the CCJ will recognize that too, that a matter of such national importance, there must be
Yeah.
some remedy in the court for clerical mistakes, right?
Exactly.
Right. So I mean, it's frivolous and it's a waste of time. The petitions will be heard, and the problem that the PvP has is that no sensible court can hear all of these anomalies and discrepancies and think that this election was credible.
Exactly.
The only logical conclusion is that you must vitiate these results and these elections, and you must throw away the whole thing and do it over, because we
Mhm.
found enough evidence to show that it was tainted. So,
That's right.
we are, like many other Guyanese, I'm looking forward to that also. But let's shift
Mhm.
gears a bit as we continue with what is in the news, Chris. I know that's what time we have a few minutes on the show, but I want to bring your attention, get your opinion on some of the other things that are happening in the news today. Let
Sure.
me just bring this up. We saw earlier today that Guy Oil is in some issues, right? We saw earlier today what is happening there with Guy Oil.
Oui. Mhm.
The general manager of Guy Oil resigned. It's Trevor
Uh-huh.
Basu. Uh, you know, and he said, of course, in this article by News Source, that persons are trying to tarnish his reputation and they're trying to tarnish his character. This is, of course, in connection with a US $3 million, which is $600 million Guyana deal that was supposed to be signed with some supplier. Um,
Yeah.
the article went on to say that there's no evidence of this, but I am still asking questions. I'm wondering whether or not, if this there's no evidence of this, why is it that Mr. Basu would have resigned? Right, he was
Mhm.
sent on administrative leave pending the investigation. But
Yeah.
there are a lot of questions to be answered here. Chris, your thoughts?
But even apart from this news item coming up from Guy Oil,
Mm,
these are the trademarks of the People's Progressive Party Civic. And I don't have the laundry list of similar cases as far back as when the PPP was in office during the 23 years.
mhm,
This is not corruption. We say to people that you have to use the acronym the PPPC, but you have to end that C with corruption, because
mhm,
everywhere, every place that the People's Progressive Party Civic is a part of, it is wrapped with corruption at every level. I'll give you an
mhm,
example in terms of the COVID-19 cash grant. Just last
mhm,
Sunday, in a parliamentary outreach that was had in the Mahaica Borbis region, 21 meetings in all. And at all of those locations, you had those villagers telling you about the incidents that occurred during the period of the distribution of the COVID cash grant. Apart
mhm,
from discrimination, apart from accusations that you have predominantly East Indian villages, that every household was able to get
mhm,
the cash grant, irrespective of who is a landlord or who's a tenant and all of that. And you saw the complete opposite in predominantly African villages. And it's not limited only to the Mahaica Borbis region, but those reports came across the entire country. And that is why in the budget debate, you had several members of parliament, particularly those the regional representative, was drawing the speaker's attention to this fact. Everywhere there
yeah.
is corruption. Now, if you are to
Mm,
go ahead, Ren.
yeah. So just you can come back to your thought there, but you said something very important, that you don't have the evidence of this corruption. We just need to look at another state agency, the GPL. We just need to look at GPL, and we just need to look at Mr. Dindial,
Of
right?
course,
So we
of
have
course,
We have Mr. Trevor Basu at
Gaio.
Guy Oil, and Mr. Dindial at GPL, who was fired
Yeah,
because of his incompetence and what's not, and he was brought back by this administration. He was
yeah, because
brought back by this administration
he
to embezzle
knows he
more
knows
money.
how to
And,
do it.
mm,
He knows how to do it.
right, right. So, like you said, it's a trademark. It's a trademark. You know, and
Yeah.
quite interesting, Chris. If I could share another thing with you, because just like Mr. Dindial, who Mr. Brassington was basically, he berated him in his exit letter, right?
Hmm.
Brassington, their own Brassington. Brassington said that this man can't manage, right?
Yeah.
Never did any reports. This is the
Hmm.
same man that they brought back to manage, right?
Yeah.
So he had problem before the PP brought him back.
Yeah.
Similarly,
Similar. Mhm.
similarly, we have now, um, and of course, this of course is from 2019, right? National Printers Overseas Base Chairman orders payment via phone, right?
Mhm.
containers of books sold sourced from the. This was
Is that
a
is
scandal
that
at the
true?
printer. This is the same. This is the same Mr. Trevor Basu, right? Right.
No, you
This
lie.
this is the same Mr. Trevor Basu who was involved in this whole big scandal at printers when he was the general manager at Guyana National Printers, who was then given a
Chris.
job at Guy Oil,
Yeah.
right? And then there's
Mhm.
this alleged fraud right now. So, you know, you see
Oh
it
my
with
God.
India. You see, okay, the India was fired from GPL, they bring it back.
Mhm.
Then we have
Mhm.
this Mr. Basu here. And if you have, this is public knowledge, you can go and Google this. This was in the
Right.
Kaitro. This was a big back and forth between the ministry in terms of printing. What he did was he skipped over those local printers and who were arguing that
Mhm.
these books are not being printed in Trinidad and Tobago, you know.
Yeah.
And there was an issue with the Auditor General where they were questioning, why was this sole source? It was a big story. Now this is not any secret. This is the
Yeah.
same person who is involved in this issue here. So, you know, as you said, it's endemic of the PPP. It's
Yeah.
endemic of them to be involved in these sort of things. Sad,
Yeah.
but it's sad to say, but it's so true.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm actually thinking now that perhaps somewhere along the line, the DPP or the powers that be mixed up the Trevors. You see, they they
But
haul they haul a Trevor Ben before the court, but I think they made a mistake and perhaps they were looking for Trevor Bashu. Could be. Could be.
you know what's an issue, Chris? I am waiting to see whether or not, because they sent 30 policemen to break your door for
Hmm.
property that belonged to you.
Yep.
Right? They got Mr. James Bond every day at the police station. They got Trevor Ben at
Hmm.
the police station. I am waiting
Hmm.
to see whether or not this allegation that is now thing is dealt with the same seriousness and level of alacrity that the
Hmm.
Attorney General and the DPP and the PPP seem to be dealing with
Yeah.
members of the AP and UAFC. We are waiting, the country is waiting to see whether or not they will deal with this matter with the same
Hmm.
level of seriousness. Let us see what will happen, Chris.
I wouldn't ask the public to hold their breath on that one at all. I wouldn't ask them to hold their breath. But as I said before, corruption is a trademark of the People's Progressive Party Civic in every program, in every activity that they have, in every ministry, in every agency. And we will continue to see this. I don't know if you have the video, the short clip with Bharat Jagdeo before they were installed in office, played on Sherrod's program
Yeah.
last night, in
Mhm.
which he was saying that oh, people are the average persons are worried about if they're gonna lose their jobs and so forth. The average people got nothing to worry about. It's just about 10 of them and so forth. To date, you
Mhm.
have over 1,800 public servants who have been terminated by the People's Progressive Party Civic. The largest number of which happens to be Guyanese of African descent. You understand
Mhm.
me? So that's why I say that, Randy, to juxtapose and remind people and bring people's attention to the court ruling on Monday, the 26th of April. Because, as I
Mhm.
said, the appeal court and the CCJ has already ruled that Order 60 is illegal, and it is expected that the Madam Chief Justice will rule that Order 60 is illegal, and therefore on the
Mhm.
streets, around the courts, and so forth, Guyanese of all walks of life should be out there. Because when the court rules, is that you have to go back to the declarations that were made by the 10 regions. And of course, to get rid of such a corrupt and inept discriminatory administration that you have. They say to
Mhm.
you, listen, oh, we change our ways, oh, we oneness by Irfan Ali. Oh, we talking about oneness. And you have
Mhm.
villages mentioned before across this country because of their ethnicity. They are deprived of a cash grant of $25,000 because of COVID. Across the world is right now dealing with COVID-19. And here in Ghana, you have the same situation. How could you, consciously discriminate against people because of their ethnicity and deprive them of $25,000, which happens to be taxpayers' money. It is not coming out of
Mhm.
Freedom House. It is not coming out of Irfan Ali's pocket or Barra Jaglio. These are the taxpayers' money. And to deprive people during a pandemic of $25,000, it tells you what type of administration you have. You have in Linden in Region 10. Those
Mhm.
nurses have been on the picket line now for over a month, because of the CEO that they have there. And persons don't even understand the depth, apart from his statement that he made about them leaving the hospital at night to go and sleep with man and etc. They don't,
Mhm.
this man is a repeat offender. He was at
Mhm.
the West Dem Hospital, Best Hospital, some years ago. And the same allegations were leveled against him under the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration. Within a wink of an eye, they removed him from Best Hospital or West Dem Hospital, and they placed him on the East Bank at the Diamond facility that is there. And the same allegations that were made, that were leveled against him at West Dem Hospital, was leveled against him on the East Bank of the Demerara. Within a wink of an eye, the PPP removed him and placed him in Linden. The same allegations that were made at West Dem and at the Diamond facility have been leveled against him again in Region 10. Why hasn't the People's Progressive Party Civic removed him from the Linden Hospital complex? Why? And you see, Randy, at times people say that, look, y'all are always pushing a particular line, but this is the reality. West Dem, the complaints come from a predominantly People's Progressive Party Civic support base. Similarly, on the East Bank of Demerara, the complaints came from a predominantly People's Progressive Party Civic support base. Here in Region 10, as all and sundry knows, is a stronghold of the APNU government. And that is why the PPP has decided, listen, irrespective of what this man said, we can leave him right there. Irrespective of him being a repeat offender, they will leave him right there. That speaks volume. Apart from the statement that he made to the nurses, there are several other egregious allegations against this man. For example, in one of the quarters there at the Linden Hospital complex, there's an air conditioning unit that is faulty and malfunctioning. It was reported to him for him to do the necessary works to correct that. And the man, it is alleged that the man made statements to the effect, and I'm quoting here from the nurses, that, oh, I better get it fixed quick before the water starts running down the foot, referring to female nurses. I'll fix it before the water starts running down the foot, etc. That is from the same individual. It is alleged that the same CEO and his driver physically assaulted nurses at the Linden Hospital complex. This matter was reported to the police in Linden. On the 10th of May, the driver has to appear before court because his trial will start. No case was submitted as it relates to the CEO of the Linden Hospital complex. What does that tell you? It tells you that the PPP is protecting this man. The same allegation has been leveled against him and his driver. His driver court trial starts on the 10th of May, and no case could be found for the CEO of the Linden Hospital complex. What does that tell you? That is the situation we have currently in this country, Randy, and that is what we have to work to correct. And that's why I say to people, on Monday, April the 26th, it's not a normal day. It cannot be seen as a normal day in the history of Guyana. It is when the court will rule that Order 60 is illegal. And the court will be ruling similar to the appeal court and the Caribbean Court of Justice that have already ruled that Order 60 is illegal. The court will be ruling similarly to the legal advice sought and obtained by GCOM's legal advisor, Excellence Dazzle, that Order 60 will be illegal. And then GCOM, as I said before, went and sought further legal advice from the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, and he echoed the sentiments of Excellence Dazzle that Order 60 would be illegal, a breach of the Constitution. All of that that what we have experienced in this country over the past 8 months by the People's Progressive Party Civic, people being terminated from their job for no reason at all, only based on their ethnicity, for communities being deprived of a COVID cash grant, contractors across this country are receiving no contract because it is alleged that they have some association with the AP and UAFC. All of that, Randy. On Monday the 26th, when the court so rule, it's when you open the door and you put them out on their head. And that's why the Guyanese people have to ensure either tomorrow, the next day, or the days leading up, on Monday the 26th, that you are on the streets. You are on the street with your placard showing that you want to ensure the court rules that Order 60 is illegal, and the People's Progressive Party Civic, which has been installed by the Donald Trump administration, is also illegal in office.
Right, Chris. As we run out of time a little bit, we're coming to program time. I want to switch topics. We have two more things to deal with on the rush this afternoon. One, I know that you, as the chief whip, you would have been there when the PPP came to Parliament to ask for money for Gaisuko, to support Gaisuko. But we see this continued protest by Gaisuko workers. And I've said that PPP would have painted themselves into a corner, so to speak. They maintain and they insist that this sugar industry will work, and it can work. But you're basically running a business that doesn't make money. So now when the employees ask for a raise, you can't tell them that they're making money, because you were the one that sold this dream to them, that you know what, this thing will make some money and we will make it work. All of these things you told the people, you said to the people that, you know what, we will make this work. So now that everybody is asking for money and increase, how will you, I'm assuming that they will come back to Parliament. They will come back to Parliament and ask the Assembly for some more money for Gaisuko. Your thoughts?
You see, Randy, what you're seeing there, those picketing exercise across the sugar belt, is essentially the people, the sugar workers, calling for reciprocity. The sugar workers are calling for reciprocity because in the lead up to the elections, the People's Progressive Party Civic, knowing full well that sugar has been on the decline for over 15 years, they went to the sugar belt areas and they said to sugar workers that, listen, if y'all vote for us, we will reopen all of those industry. Sugar is alive and sugar is doing well, and we will continue to pay you. Now that they have gotten into office, the people now looking for their reciprocity because they went out and they voted for them. So now the PPP has to pay. You understand me? So it's not by accident. Those folks are not just out there because, cost of living gone up, as we know it is up, but because they were told by the People's Progressive Party Civic that if you vote for us, we will ensure that sugar stays alive. We will continue to pay you your salary. We will open back the sugar industry, and all of that they told them. When they came to the National Assembly in my budget presentation, they sought to try to twist my words when I used the word and says that the sugar industry is like a bloodsucker. They went and said to the sugar workers that Christopher Jones said that the sugar workers are bloodsuckers. That's what they went to tell them, but that is the reality. One would have expected that, knowing full well that across the world sugar is on the decline and has been so for the past 15 years, one would have expected the People's Progressive Party Civic to come to the Parliament and tell us about a renewed plan for the sugar industry, how to diversify this industry, for example. The lands are there and the lands are plentiful. You have the sugar workers who are there and they're quite skilled in their trade. All you have to do is start to diversify this industry. You can focus on producing other crops, fruits, and other livestock. The world over, you know how many major countries across the world import fruits such as passion fruit, for example, and so forth. As I said before, the lands there are plentiful and the sugar workers are skilled. Diversify this industry, have them plant new products, get those, and you export it. That is what we expected the PPP to come to the parliament and tell us. But instead of that, they come and tell us that no, they have to get this. This is part of the recovery plan. And then what happens? The former sitting president of Guyana from the People's Progressive Party Civic, former President Donald Ramatar himself articulated that this monies that they're giving to these people who they claim could bring back the sugar industry is a waste of time. Now, when it comes from the horse's mouth, or something that Mr. Robert Corbyn always says, that if Huri come from Creek Bottom and he said kettle bottom back, you have to believe it because Huri come from Creek Bottom. And it's the same thing. Donald Ramatar, former president of the People's Progressive Party Civic, agreed with the nation that the expenditures that they put in the sugar industry, and these individuals who claim that they are some sort of experts who have no knowledge about the industry, it's a waste of taxpayers' money. And why should the rest of the public sector monies from their taxes go towards propping up an industry that is failing, and at the same time they are being deprived of increases in wages and salary? How could that be just? How could that be just? And mind you, Randy, this was the second disbursement or request of the parliament to give to the sugar industry within a few months. Billions of dollars, $9 billion. Could you imagine if you take that money and you start to increase public servants' salaries, the police, the nurses, the doctors, you name it? And those are the persons who are paying these taxes. Diversify the sugar industry and stop preaching to the workers in the sugar belt that sugar is doing well. It is not. But as I said in the inception, Randy, what you're seeing on the streets with those sugar workers protesting, they are protesting for their reciprocity, because the People's Progressive Party Civic told them that once you vote for we can ensure that your sugar industry stay open and you'll get money. That is what is happening.
But like I said, they would have painted themselves into this corner, and they've created a demon, and they have to deal with those demons. The demon of the sugar industry, so to speak, because I don't want people to misquote me, the sugar workers. We're not referring to the sugar workers as demons. The demon of the sugar industry, and this belief that they would have fed the people that this will be somehow profitable. As we talk about that, Chris, I'm asking the simple question: whether or not the PPP will come back to the parliament, ask for money, more monies for the sugar workers, and sneak in there increases for the sugar workers before any talks about increase for public servants and civil servants are had. This is going to be an interesting period of time. So we continue to look for that. Folks, Chris, we have time for one more thing this afternoon. Let's get it.
Give me some folk song, let me sing something now.
Right. This afternoon, our one more thing. If there is a sign that we are living in the times of the PPP, like we were before 2015, it's a continued degradation of the police force and the respect for the police force. So before we came on here, we saw this video circulating. It's quite disturbing, but we're going to play it. We're going to play it. If you need any more signs of the times, so to speak, that we're living in PPP time, I'm trying to get the video up, but it shows you this is a snapshot of what times we actually living in, where the police is so disrespected. And I want to get your view on it as soon as we can get the video up, so that we can show you. We're having some problems right now in getting it up. Let me just but the video is of interaction with a bus driver and a police officer. You would have been seeing it circulated on social media. But let's see if we can get it. I really want to show the video, but that's our one more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
While you work on getting that up, Randy, I fully agree with you. I mean, as well, apart from the video that you're about to show, is that, as I said last night on Sherrod's program, is that every day now you open the newspaper, you're reading about some husband chop wife some mother ingest poison and give that to their children, and so forth. It's like it's a demonic spirit or cloud is now hovering over Ghana, and every day that is what you read. That is the news, breaking news. You know, man shot a man chop off man hand. All of that. That's what is in the news now. Nothing healthy and wholesome. It is at times persons don't even watch the news now because that is all you get from the news now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like indeed, as you said, the signs of the time. It's like a demonic spirit is now hovering over Ghana, and all of these atrocities that we had in the 23 years of the PPP is back with us. You know, execution style killing outside of Palm Court. You know, execution style killing. You have an individual like Roger Shahid Khan calling for justice. That is indeed the sign of the time. You know.
Yes, definitely. And I read yesterday on yesterday's show, Chris, headlines from 24 hours, just in the span of about 24 hours. And there were about 4 or 5 incidents of serious crimes. Persons found dead, Matai's owner robbed and stabbed, somebody get robbed and stabbed and at a barbecue. And this, of course, is just a 24-hour period. And this, you know, I'm very sorry we're not getting the video to show because we wanted to end with this video today, but we seem to be having more technical difficulties here. But you said this demonic force is in the form of the PPP. That is the demonic force that is over this country. You know, sad to say, but that's the reality of it. That is the reality of it. As we conclude, Chris, I'll give you an opportunity to wrap up. You know, as we talk about the 26th and what is expected.
Right. All right. So quickly, as I started, Randy, again, as it relates to the court ruling today, Paul, as it relates to the 2 PPP, I gotta say now, former parliamentary secretaries, it is a good day for justice in Ghana and, of course, across the world, as you saw the George Floyd thing. I want to credit Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford and, of course, my colleague, Mr. Ganesh Mahipal, who was tasked with the research. And of course, he did extensively. And as a result of those works, we saw the results today. On Monday, the 26th of April, will be the ruling as it relates to Petition 88. I said before is that you have to essentially see this as the greatest opportunity to get back to some sort of normalcy in this country. And that is under the APNU AFC government. As we know, the People's Progressive Party Civic has been foisted on the people of Ghana, and they have been installed in office. Petition 88 speaks to Order 60, that it is illegal. That is our argument. The appeal court and the Caribbean Court of Justice have already ruled.
Sorry, go ahead, sorry.
The Petition 88... Petition 88 is illegal. Those 2 legal opinions that were sought by the Ghana Elections Commission before the recount exercise commenced, they too as well indicated to them that to go the route of Order 60 would be illegal. And of course, on Monday, the 26th, we will have the Madam Justice ruling on that. And as I said before, once the ruling is in keeping with all of the other courts' ruling and the legal opinion, everything that stemmed from Order 60 will be dubbed null and void, or null and void. So therefore, the declarations that were made to install Irfan Ali and his band of merry men would be illegal. And therefore, you have to go back to where those declarations were made, the legal declarations that were made, and that would have been by the 10 regional officers of the Ghana Elections Commission. You have to let your voices be heard. It's that all of the that we witnessed within these past 8 months under the People's Progressive Party Civic, Order 60 being thrown out, is our opportunity to correct all of that. All of the discrepancies, discrimination across. You see it. Jagdio speaking about, oh, nobody not gonna lose the job. Ordinary people got nothing to worry about. Lies. Anil Irfan Ali speaking about oneness. What oneness? How could a country be oneness when one village received COVID cash grant and another village received nothing? Huh? How could it be oneness when people of one ethnicity, Guyanese of African descent, are being terminated every single day and another set is being employed? How could you get oneness? Petition 88 deals with Order 60. On Monday, all of the courts have ruled that Order 60 is illegal, and we expect nothing else but to have that same ruling by the Madam Chief Justice. Randy.
Definitely, Chris, and thank you for that reminder to those persons who are tuned in, especially those in Guyana here who have an opportunity to let their voices be heard. Before we go, our operator was able to find the video. So we're going to show you that it's quite interesting as we go out. Let's just share the video.
Yeah, you want to video it?
Yes, you have an officer there, fight basically in a physical tussle with the bus driver. No one would say if it's not a bus, that's what the bus driver exits. Goes into
No,
his
he's
bus,
still there.
gets a cutlass.
Oh shit.
This is Guyana, Chris. This is Guyana.
Yeah.
Runs the police officers with a cutlass. And that's one more thing for today. That is just, of course, a sign of the times, Chris, as we said before. Quite sad. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this story later as investigations are done. Thank you very much, Mr. Christopher Jones, Chief Whip, for joining me. We need to make this more often, man. You know, we get to get back the old. Yes. And I hope that we start your midday program. But thank you very much, Chief Whip, for joining me this afternoon. It was a lively discussion. We thank those persons who are joining us internationally in the region and right here in Guyana. As I like to say, let's continue to work for national development. Do enjoy the rest of your evening and stay safe, folks. Bye.